welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Rudy, how you doing today?
Oh, doing not too bad yourself.
Pretty good. It's been a good week.
Good to hear.
How
Not a
how's it
big
feel as a
weekend
Sharks fan?
of yeah. Um Mixed emotions I would say. It was definitely an interesting weekend processing the trade and all that's for sure.
Yeah, that's there's some moving parts for it. I have not seen any general consensus with the trade. I've seen I've seen Pittsburgh is the clear winners. The other two teams suck. I think I've seen a lot of people saying that San Jose got a lot back considering they unloaded a big contract. I've seen like every take under the sun that you could have about this trade. So I'm curious to see what you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's lots of ways to look at it. Before we kind of break it down, do you want to just for everyone just kind of catch them up, list off what the trade was here?
Sure. So we'll start off with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh received Erik Karlsson, and they also received Rem Pitlick from Montreal. This is a three-way trade. They also received Dylan Hemelik from San Jose and a 2026 third round pick from San Jose. San Jose received a 2024 first round pick from Pittsburgh, Mikhail Granlund from Pittsburgh, Jan Ruda from Pittsburgh, sorry, Stanley Cup champion Jan Ruda from Pittsburgh, and Mike Hoffman from Montreal. Montreal received a 2025 second round draft pick from Pittsburgh, Jeff Petrie from Pittsburgh, Casey DeSmith from Pittsburgh, and Nathan Laguerre from Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Do you
and
know what the situation is with the cap retention?
yeah, so I was just gonna say, the first round pick that Pittsburgh traded to San Jose, so that one is a conditional first. It is top 10 protected. Um, so if Pittsburgh ends up with a top 10 pick, their following draft pick the next year, in the first round will be sent to San Jose. And then Erik Karlsson was 13% retained, so he's coming into Pittsburgh at a 10 million even cap hit, and then 25% of Jeff Petrie, his contract was retained going to Montreal.
Okay. Did Montreal retain any of the Carlson contract, or was that
No.
all San Jose?
Yeah, it was all San Jose. Montreal just kind of helped out by taking on some cap space in terms of Jeff Petrie and Casey DeSmith, which they were able to do by also offloading Mike Hoffman's contract, who they were trying to get rid of.
Right. So do we want to break it down how we think each team did individually?
Yeah, I'm good to do that.
All right. We'll start with the probably the quickest one to talk about, I imagine, in Montreal. What do you think about the third team in?
I mean, I would give. I mean, I wouldn't say in terms of like the haul for Montreal necessarily, but I would still give them like A minus, even put like an A, just because on the fact they were able to get rid of Hoffman's contract, which they were actively trying to do, to the point where they were willing to retain half of it and trade him somewhere just so they didn't have to worry about buying him out. So you get him off the books. You get a free second round pick to basically add you whether DeSmith's going to be the starter backup, I don't know. But they get either a 1A or 1B goalie. And they get Jeff Petrie back to help out on their defense, which is really hurting. So, I mean, I think this is great for Montreal to kind of just be a filler to take on cap space from Pittsburgh because it helps them uh, right now, like, improve in those areas that they need. And they got a free second round pick out of it.
Yeah, I mean, so they're actively trying to get rid of Hoffman, which they got rid of without having to retain, and
Yep.
then Rem Pitlick. So those are the only two pieces they lost, and they wanted to get rid of one of them, and then they got three players and a second round pick. That's pretty sweet to come in and get that.
Yeah, that's very well done by them. When they're in a position where they didn't even really necessarily need to be involved in the trade, they found a way to get themselves in, and they just improved their team both now and in terms of the future. Because that second round pick could, you know, be used to draft a player who could go on to play for them, or it could be used as a future trade chip for Montreal if need be.
Yeah, not to mention they got Jeff Petrie, who they need on defense, but they also got him at a discount because they got
Yeah,
Pittsburgh to retain 1.5 mil on that. So yeah, I definitely think Montreal did well in this trade.
yeah, I 100% agree on that.
Next, let's go to San Jose. Uh, what do you think about what they got back for Carlson?
Uh, um, I don't know. I have mixed emotions about it though. I view it very similar, and I think similar to the way a lot of people did with the Timo Meyer trade. At first glance, like it feels underwhelming. Like I know they did, just a year ago, Carlson was ranked in like one of the top 5 worst contracts in the league. It was like you're now, stuck there with 11 and a half of cap space and a guy who, can't stay healthy. And when he is healthy, he wasn't doing good. He was great last year. It was awesome to see. Can he maintain that, especially on the Sharks? I don't know. And he was able to actually stay healthy. If, something goes wrong and he gets injured, then it's right back to that 11 and a half of dead cap space. But I don't mind the return. I think, again, it's very similar to the Timo Meyer deal because it looked underwhelming at first. But I think the biggest thing was even just looking at, kind of the two like prospects they got in Zetterlund and Mukamadulin, I think are both going to be pretty good. I think Zetterlund, middle six guy, Mukamadulin probably a top 4 defenseman, I think. But then it was that first round pick where, later in the first round, it could have either been a guy like Easton Cowan, who Toronto took, who's viewed as, one of the biggest reaches in the draft, or the Sharks, who ended up getting Quentin Musty, who a lot of people are saying that's one of the biggest steals of the draft. And so I think picking Musty there is kind of what made that trade, when trading away Meyer, kind of look a little bit more even. With the players back, it really depends on what you get back when they eventually trade them to contenders, whether it's this upcoming season or the following one.
Yeah, because they're most likely not looking to just run with Mike Hoffman or run with Granlund or Ruda. Like they're gonna be shipping them off to contenders for more picks or for prospects or something. So it yeah, this is definitely one of those trades that you don't know who wins, or if there even is a winner really until later on when we know in the next few years how Pittsburgh's done with Karlsson and what these guys even end up being for San Jose.
Yeah,
But I
exactly
think
right.
I think at the time it like there's decent value there. Like those are 3 solid NHL players. Like I don't think any of them are, fringe guys. Like they all have a good purpose on a good team. So I think they'll definitely get some
Yeah,
good value back. And that first round pick, like, you might get to pick another musty if you're lucky later on, or if something happens, if their core age is that much more, like you said, if Carlson gets injured or something, they and that ends up being a top 10 pick. I don't see any scenario where if it is a top 10 pick that they get better the next year because they're going all in now. So if it does end up being a top 10 and it slips to next year, now you've got a team even worse than top 10 pick. So it could very easily be a lottery pick, and that's unprotected.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And even another thing with that first round pick, I mean, I don't know how many people necessarily view it this way, but a big way that I view it is they like it's kind of assuming like that Pittsburgh's not going to have a top 10 pick. Like I feel like it's very unrealistic that they do.
Yeah.
Um But that now is something that San Jose can kind of focus on, be like, hey, odds are Pittsburgh's probably going to finish by the end of the season. Whatnot, their draft pick is probably going to be between, I would say, 20 to 32. And then so during the season, when you start to really figure out who those guys are going to be, kind of like a Quentin Musty, that is going to be going somewhere kind of in that range, or potentially guys that could kind of fall back in that range, you can really kind of bear down more and focus on them to figure out which guy, if available, is the best possible guy to pick from that group.
Yeah, not to mention, San Jose, they're poised to be probably one of the top three favorites in the league for going for first overall this next year. If you have a 16th overall pick or a 20th overall pick, you can potentially bundle that with, a third or a second overall to move up to first if you really like the top guy. Or, you can move from fifth to third and, make sure you get your guy. Like, it could definitely be a big piece for them around this time next year.
Yeah, and it's obviously the biggest piece that they got back in the trade. But with the other guys, once we kind of go through Pittsburgh side of the deal, I want to go back to those three players and just kind of kind of going a little bit more in depth on where they might fit in with the Sharks, or what's going to happen with them. What I think will end up happening with them.
All right, we'll run back to that. I guess then, do we want to start talking about Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Let's talk about Pittsburgh. The trade was kind of revolved around with getting Erik Karlsson coming in at a $10 million cap hit now as well.
Yeah, I think underratedly, so it's not a huge piece. It's obviously a third round pick, but they got San Jose's third round pick in 2026. I like that they picked up that pick for 3 years in the future when they know they're going to be there's a 90% chance we're rebuilding at that point.
Yeah.
Like they're not taking the draft pick for now, they're taking it for later. So
yeah,
I do like that by Kyle Dubas, but I do think this is a pretty, it's hard to say. It really depends what kind of Erik Karlsson they get. If they get the Karlsson of this past season, it's great for them. But what do you think this means for their team structure regarding Karlsson? Is the first line Letang Karlsson? Is Letang a second pair D-man now?
Yeah, there's a lot of aspects to the trade as a whole. Originally, when it was kind of, first coming out that okay, he's gonna get traded. It's just a matter of when and where. It was really, it was really Carolina and Pittsburgh were in it. There was talks of there's mutual interest with, Toronto and Seattle, but nothing ever really came out about it. It was just reported, and then that was kind of it. It was dead. And then all the stuff that happened with Carolina, certain guys leaving and bringing in D'Angelo kind of made it apparent Karlsson wasn't going there. So it was really Pittsburgh was the only team in the running, which is why I think they were able to, as of right now, I think get it at a really good deal for him, assuming he can maintain what he did last year. Where he fits in, I think when you're trading for a guy like Erik Karlsson, it's he's now your number one guy. I think he'll play on the top pair, and then you bump Letang down to the second pair. I think they're still going to keep them probably at similar ice times, though. I think they're still going to find a way to make sure that pretty much if one of them isn't on the ice, the other one is almost. I think when you can run a 1-2 punch with that.
Yeah, get almost 24, 25 minutes a night out of each of them.
Yeah. And then I'm assuming Karlsson probably runs the top power play. And again, Letang kind of has to shift back and run the second one, which is, again, still a great 1-2 punch for, guys on the back end for your power play.
Absolutely. So we saw this, that something maybe not on the same level as Carlson Letang, but we saw something kind of similar this year with Tampa Bay. They wanted Sergachev to take that next step, and they moved him up to the power play one. And a lot of people thought, that's going to hurt Hedman's numbers, and it did fairly bit this past year compared to years past. But it made our power play two better than it's been in at least 5 years, because now
Which is
we've got
saying a lot
Hedman
because
quarterbacking that
always had
second unit.
had a great power play as well. So to even improve it, was awesome, and something that I don't think anyone expected going into the season. But yeah, I think that's really going to help Pittsburgh's power play. Again, I even mentioned it to you like the night before the trade. I said, like, let's look at it now. Caroline is clearly out now. Dubas named himself as GM for the Penguins, and they just moved. And Gensel is injured and going to be out, so they've cap space is currently open. They need more firepower to help replace that for the time being, till he comes back. So it was like Karlsson's going to Pittsburgh now, and then 12 hours later, it's a done deal.
Yeah, it has been rumored for a long time, and I think a lot of people are going to be hypercritical of San Jose in particular with this, just because of the way they got Karlsson. They've been criticized to hell and back for that trade, and people are just sitting around wondering, how much are they going to be able to get back considering what they gave up for him. But at the end of the day, you just got to make the trade in the circumstances you're in. And, worst case scenario for San Jose, they didn't make this trade, and then he got injured or fell off this next season, and now you're back to boat anchor contract that you can't move, and you won't get anything back for him. So who knows? It might look like, even though he didn't get a ton, like even if you don't get a ton, it might look like a good trade just because you got rid of him now.
Yeah, exactly right. But so now the thing for me is like San Jose is clearly going through a rebuild, and if Erik Karlsson didn't pop off the way he did last year, like if he played like he did the couple years prior, San Jose finishes last in the league, and all those extra losses or the way different games go, they could have very well had the first best odds and won the draft lottery, because anything could happen in a different reality. But it's just they had to, but they had to move him to allow them to be worse, so that they can actually again contend for higher overall picks and get better players. But they're bringing back NHL players that are not on the level of Karlsson, but they're making the team more well-rounded and able to compete. When now they're going away from the direction of the rebuild that they've committed to.
Yeah, and that's why I'm suspecting that some of these guys are going to get moved before the deadline. I think they'll probably keep a couple of them until the deadline. But if a team wants to come and pick up Jan Ruda, or whoever, it's you got to make those trades. Like, you got to get worse before you get better. And yeah. I think teams will come knocking. I mean, especially in the past about 2 or 3 years, the price that teams have paid for players at the deadline has only gone up. We're seeing some bizarre names get picked up for first round picks. The Nick Foligno, to name one. Guys that I don't know. Personally, I just don't expect a lot of the ones that have got picked up for first round picks to be worth that. So, if you're picking up those guys, do they have any retention slots yet left?
So the Sharks have only one left, because they've still got 2 more years on the Brent Burns retention and now 4 on the Karlsson. So really they only have one. Right. So the guy that makes, but again, so now the problem is And going back to even before the Carlson trade, when they traded for Duclair, and I said, okay, so now you've got different options. If he's a great fit on the team and just is doing well and whatnot, keep him because he's a young player. He's good. He's great for the future. Or you can retain half and then trade Duclair, who's a former 30 goal scorer for 1.5 mil at the deadline. Like you could get something good back for him. But now it's like now you have Hoffman who's got 1 year left and he's at 4.5. So, then you could only retain one. And then Granlund and Ruda both have 2 years left. So trading them this year and retaining doesn't make sense because now you don't have that retention slot at all for the remainder of that year or next season at all.
Right. So you're thinking we'll probably see a trade with retention on one of the guys with 1 year left on the contract.
Yeah, and I'm most likely leaning towards Hoffman, just on the fact that he's at 4.5, so it's $1.5 million
You can
more
retain
than
more on it.
Duclair. Yeah, and every penny matters to teams in contention trying to make it all work. But again, it also kind of comes down to so now where does Hoffman fit into the lineup? And then how does he do throughout the season? Because if he doesn't do good, nobody's going to want him. But if he's already at 20, 25 goals or so by the trade deadline, there's going to be teams, that are looking to add a guy like that.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where all these guys get divvied up to. I assume to a lot of contenders. Hoffman, do you know what his stats were last year? I can bring that up actually right here. But
I don't even think they were like too bad. Like they're not like, everybody still kind of compares him back to when he was in his prime in Ottawa and expecting those kind of numbers. But like he was still on a bad Montreal team too. He did still put up like pretty respectable numbers, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, 67 games played last year, 14 goals, 20 assists for 34 points. So if he plays a full 82, he hits at least 40 points and 20 goals. 20, 18, 19, 20 goals.
Yeah.
So that's if you can get a guy like that at half retained for 2.5 ish, that's pretty good depth pickup if you can slot that guy on your third line or on a really deep team, maybe even the fourth. Like,
yeah. But so now the biggest thing though, again, with San Jose is so you want to rebuild, but you're bringing in these NHL players now who are now taking away spots from, your young guys that are ready to come up. Like they're at a complete logjam on forward and defense. Like they're, I can just kind of rattle through it. So like, your centers down the middle now is going to be Hurdle, Couture, probably Granlund on the third. And then now Nico Sturm gets bumped down to the fourth. And then on the wings, you've got LeBanc and Duclair. Maybe those two work together. And then Eklund and Hoffman, something like that. But then you still have Barabanov, Lindblom, Zetterland, Zadina, Smith, Luke Cunnin, who's coming off IR. And then right there, that's, like all your NHL guys. So now it doesn't even give the chance for any of your guys like Gushkin or Beasted or Bordalo. Like none of them even really have a chance of sniffing making the team this year because they're not going to take one of these guys making decent money and, bury them in the minors or anything if they're healthy.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking that San Jose hopefully will unload a couple of these NHL players that they don't want to keep before the start of the season. Because obviously we see the majority of trades right before the trade deadline or earlier than now in the summer. But if something to be said for if a team that's looking to contend, picks up a Mike Hoffman, they can figure out where he goes in the lineup, work on that chemistry all year. And then it's not like you're getting a brand new guy come halfway through March. You can you can actually kind of know where you're going earlier in the season than picking them up late because uh, you know, not to be that guy that makes everything about his team, but we picked Tampa Bay picked up Brandon Hagel, and people were wondering, oh, did they overpay for him? He doesn't look great when we got him at the deadline, and then he looked all right in the playoffs, and then next season he was gangbusters. He was great. Like it just takes some time for some of those guys. Like
Yeah.
so, I think more teams need to be a little more proactive and try and pick some guys up at the start of the year if they can try and have the foresight. Maybe for a team like Colorado or something where it's like they're expecting to make the playoffs. Maybe not for a team that's on the fringe trying to get in like Ottawa, but for a team that knows they're getting in, make the move while it's available now.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like, because I mean, the issue is that not only do they have that on forward, they have that on defense. Like with Carlson gone now, Ferraro is your number one defenseman. Like, I love the guy, but like, he's not a number one defenseman. And then obviously Ruda's gonna play, bringing him in. You've got Vlasic. You kind of have to play that contract. Benning, I think, is on a steal of a contract. Like, and he was great last year. That's like your number one right-handed defenseman. But then, so there's four. You've still got Shimmick back there. You've got Burrows, who you just signed. You've got McDonald. And then, even still down for young guys, like you've got Henry Thrun, who played last year and looked great. You've got Mukamadulin, who's maybe ready to go. They got Leon Gonki. I think that's how you pronounce it, Gonki, who they just traded for a couple weeks ago from Winnipeg, who a lot of people think is going to make the team and quarterback one of the power plays. And so you've also got a logjam up on defense now too. So a part of me feels like the Sharks are going to be making at least a couple trades before the season starts, whether it's even before training camp and preseason or during the midst of it. I mean, that's literally was, the team media day and whatnot when they traded for Karlsson. So it's not out of the question. But I just feel like there's got to be a couple of trades that are going to fall, within the next month and a half to, kind of clear out some of those guys that, just there's no room for them or they're taking away spots from someone else.
Yeah, and hopefully, they're making the right trades, trading the older guys, because I know it doesn't happen too often, but every once in a while you'll see one of these teams trade away some good young players for draft picks or something, and you're just like wondering, like, aren't you rebuilding now? Like, shouldn't you want that guy?
Yeah, like there and not even that necessarily, but like there's some guys like like yeah, I don't want to name specific players or anything, but like there are guys that aren't necessarily on the young side or the older side. Like they're right in the middle, but they don't fit. Like it's not like they're a bad player. It's just they don't fit on the Sharks with their just their structure and the way that they go. Like it's just not suited for their game. And I feel like they would thrive for other organizations. Whether you even have to take a mid prospect or a later round pick just to open up that space for those young guys to actually develop who are a part of your future, I say go for it.
Yeah, hopefully we see some exciting young guys start developing in the NHL this season. I know Thomas Bordeleau especially. I was really excited for him to make the roster last year, and he didn't end up playing. So I'm really hoping this year he gets to play in the show, or at least gets a chance to prove that he could be there.
Well, and so that's a guy I'm looking at like with the biggest microscope out of anyone during training camp and preseason, because I really do believe if he doesn't make the Sharks this year, he's going to be traded. Like as good of a prospect as he is, he's already 21 right now. And beginning of January, he's going to turn 22. So it's like if he's, when he's come up and played, he's looked good, he's fit in. He just needs to get more reps to really get into it full time. and really allow himself to get comfortable and play to his strengths. And if he's not going to be able to get that, like he needs to go somewhere else to where he can get that opportunity before it's too late.
Yeah, otherwise he's gonna start losing that potential. It's gonna start legitimately stunting his growth instead of just, some of the guys that, they just, oh, whatever, I have to wait an extra year, but eventually it starts really hurting their development.
Well, exactly right, and it's the same boat with a lot of those guys from when the Sharks had a really good draft year uh, in 2020, because not only did they get Bordelot, but they also grabbed guys like Brandon Coe, who people think could be a guy who's could maybe make that jump. You've also got Ozzy Weisblatt, who's you took in the first round. Gushkin, who I think probably has the best chance out of all those guys except Bordelot to make it, and even still Tristan Robbins, who took in the second round. So it's like at most one of those guys is going to be playing with the Sharks this year, and the rest are going to again be with the Barracuda and not get that opportunity at all.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
it'll we'll be watching that as it develops.
yeah, but right now, just through it, I would give Pittsburgh an A+. I mean, they got rid of contracts that they were trying to get rid of. They brought in Erik Karlsson when they're clearly in win now mode with their core of Crosby, Malkin, Letang. That group. They're trying to do one more run, very similar to what Boston did. San Jose, I would give a B2 right now. It could go down to a C-, could go up to an A. It really depends on what they do with the rest of those players that they got. What do they turn them into? Or do they lose in the free agency? Who knows? And then Montreal, I would give them an A because they didn't need to be a part of this trade. They got rid of a guy they didn't want. They brought in pieces they need, and they got a second-round pick. So, that's sweet.
I feel
for
like
them.
you very rarely see teams lose at all when they're the third team into a trade. Like I feel
Exactly
like
right.
they're in the next 10, 20 years, we might see a GM put together a really good team, and then we'll look back and be like, oh, he just was the third guy in 10 trades in a row and just kept gaining assets for retaining 500K or taking one player in this trade.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, I mean, look at the Coyotes. I mean, that's looking great for them now because Vancouver, I mean, had to buy out Ekman Larson because he didn't work there. They're trying to get rid of Connor Garland, and all the Coyotes had to do was take some shitty contracts for literally 1 year when they were trying to be a bottom team anyways. And they got Dylan Guenther out of it, who's going to be a great, probably first liner for him in the future. So, that, just sometimes taking on bad contracts or retained salary or not, can pay off huge for a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess while we're on the topic of Arizona, I don't know how much the story's developed since, but it sounds like the owner has put in a bid to buy some land for their new arena.
Yeah. Well,
So
and it's
that's some positive news for Coyotes fans they haven't had in a while.
well, and it's like I said, you they needed that first big domino to fall, and that was Logan Cooley deciding to sign there. Because at the beginning of the offseason, it was, he's going back to play university hockey or college hockey, whatever. And so it was like, shit, it's a very realistic possibility that he doesn't want to go play in that small 5,000 capacity arena. He doesn't want to be a part of the Coyotes organization. But then for him to flip back and now sign with them and be committed to there, much like Clayton Keller is, that's a big showing of hey, these guys are actually trying to build something here. We need to step up and show them that we're on board with trying to keep, hockey in Arizona. So I hope it works out for the Coyotes because I really would like to, see them come out of this rebuild strong, like it's looking like they will be, and have a nice arena to play in and show that they can be a successful franchise.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona, I've been watching hockey long enough now that, I've seen the ups and downs of majority of teams, but there's still a few select teams that I have never seen be good as I'm currently watching hockey, and Arizona is one of them. Like they
Yeah,
had that one playoff run, uh, but other than that, like I've pretty
yeah.
much always known them as a bottom feeding team. The only other team really like that at this point is Buffalo, and they kind of came out of that last year, and they really seems like they're going to come out of it this year.
Yeah, and it's even like, when you think back, like, say 4 or 5 years ago, people talking about teams like, oh, they should relocate. Like, it's a dumpster fire there. Players go there for their careers to die. It was always Arizona and Florida with the Panthers. But I mean, look at Florida
Yeah,
last year. Like, they were so close to going on one of the greatest, playoff runs ever. Like, they came up just short, but like, still, there's no reason why the Coyotes can't do that, in a couple years. And now Florida's on the map. Like, their players want to go there, they want to be a part of it. It's growing more and more there. And I think the Coyotes can easily follow suit with that. And this should, what Florida did should incentivize the Coyotes to really run at it and be like, hey, we can actually do this. Because Florida just did, no problem.
yeah, and I mean, two really similar locations for a team. Generally speaking, a lot of players prefer to play for teams in the states. They're both from states that are nice and hot. They're like destination places, and they also have no state tax. Like, it's realistically, Arizona should be like one of the places to be in the NHL, and hopefully around the time they get everything done, they get their arena, maybe it'll be that place.
Yeah, yeah, and it was just nice last year to not see them just going out and grabbing all these guys on LTIR just to gain more, picks and prospects that they end up dumping away for nothing a couple years later. Like, it's nice to see them actually go with the group that they have and, actually try to build now moving forward rather than either staying the same or moving back. So I'm excited to see what they can do there, and hopefully they can, figure something out for a new arena there.
Yeah, anyone who thinks that Arizona was actively trying to tank last year, uh, they clearly didn't watch any Coyotes games, because if they wanted to tank, all they had to do was trade Karel Vejmelka,
Yeah.
because he was stellar for them last year, and I'm excited to see if he gets even better, because I picked him up in fantasy last year. I was for a while. I was a big fan of him.
Yeah, and even that, like a guy like Clayton Keller, he's really entering his prime now. They're not a good team, so people are like they could look to move him and give him the opportunity to flourish somewhere else, and then they can really rebuild. But they hung on to him just like Pamelka, and they're running with those guys now. They're not stepping back and be like, hey, we're going to try and rebuild again for the
Yeah,
90th time. They're like, we've got our guys, let's run with them, regardless of if we don't get Bedard. We're still going to get a good player, and let's go with these guys. Like, this is our core now. So it's definitely a switch up from previous years, and I'm excited to watch how it plays out for them. So it could go anyway.
yeah. One last thing I'm just gonna throw out there that I've been seeing a couple rumblings around. Going back to Pittsburgh, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's rumors going around that Yager is set to re-sign with the Penguins, 1 year at league minimum.
No.
Yeah, I saw it earlier today, and I wasn't sure if it was real, but I just Googled it up, and there's a couple articles on it. It sounds like there's not much info past that. All the rumor is that it's going to be 1 year league min, but it'd be
Uh,
really interesting to see if they actually did that. And who knows? Maybe that means they sign him to a 1 day contract, and he retires a Penguin. Maybe he plays, 5 minutes in their first game of the season and then retires.
that's honestly kind of what I would think. I don't see I mean, like it is Yager, but he's 51.
Yeah,
Like he can't play in the NHL anymore. The game has just evolved. It's too fast. I think it would have to be something like he signs a 1 year or a 1 day contract and retires with the Penguins, or it's like no, the thing all along was they're bringing him in for some kind of management role or something. They're bringing him as part of their management there. Like I just don't see him actually signing him being a player on the Penguins roster next year.
yeah.
It would be
I've
cool to
I've seen a
see, but
lot of
I see
people.
no way that happens.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people who are excited and they're like, "Dude, it's Yager. He'll come in and put up 40 points at least." But dude, I
He's going
we've
to just be
seen
too
some
slow.
players come back when they're older, like Chara, but like not not that old. 51,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Not only that, but 51 and being out of the NHL for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, and then to come back in and with how much the game is, evolved since then, it would be a
Yeah, the
disaster.
league is only getting faster every year.
Yeah.
And that hurts those old guys that still have the skill that, maybe if they were at that position in their career in 2000, they'd be able to stick around and they could be a power play 2 guy and play on the third, fourth line. Now there's no place for him because, you know, every guy is just blowing past you.
Yeah, exactly, right. But I mean, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Again, I really don't think anything's going to, you know, happen there unless again it's a sign and retire. But it's definitely something interesting to keep an eye on, over the next little bit and see if there's any actual truth to it.
Yeah, Yager, Carlson, like get Lemieux back. Let's get the band back together. Let's make this an
Yeah,
absolute fever dream for Penguins fans.
yeah. I mean, it's also Dubas, so like, who knows what could happen there.
He's crazy. He'll do it.
Is yeah. So, is there anything else you kind of wanted to go over that? I mean, that's kind of the biggest news that's gone out lately. So I don't know if you have
Definitely the
much
biggest
more
thing.
or anything you wanted to.
Uh, Not really news around the league, but I do have a series of posts here that I just want to run some of the numbers by you here. Uh, so this is a series of posts that have been on the r/hockey subreddit. Shout out to u/homicidal penguin for making these. Basically, once a day for the last couple of days, he's been posting polls on who's the best center, who's the best winger, who's the best defenseman, goalie. I think currently today he did coaches, and tomorrow he's going to do GMs. So maybe in the next episode we could talk about the results of those two if we want. But
Yeah.
yeah, these each of them got, it looks like, around anywhere from 65,000 to 80 some thousand answers. And so these are not like, professionally or objectively right lists, but this is kind of popular opinion ranking some of the players by position.
Okay.
Uh, One other thing to note is that the way it was formatted is you go in to do the quiz and it just comes up with two names. It's just Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, and you click who you think's better,
Yeah.
and it's you can vote as many times as you want. It's just infinite,
Okay.
and so it's not like 80,000 different people, but it's 80,000 answers were given,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
so the numbers the numbers besides the ranking that'll be giving are the percentage of the time that person's button was clicked.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so realistically, for the centers, McDavid should probably be 100%, but not every, misclicks. Maybe people are just homers and picking their guy over him. But
Yeah.
we'll go through these real quick. The results for the top centers in the league. Number one, obviously, McDavid at 97.6. Then two, Leon Draisaitl at 92.6.
Okay. Yeah. So
Number
they got one
three,
and two
Nathan
right.
McKinnon at 92.4. So that one was actually really close between Draisaitl and McKinnon.
Okay.
Number 4, Crosby at 90.9.
I like that.
Uh, Number 5, Austin Matthews at 89.8. So really close to Crosby.
That's a good top. Like that's good for the top five. That's
Yeah.
the way it should be.
This is where things get a little more controversial, I think. Number 6, Jack Hughes.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
don't hate
think
it, but I think it might be a little bit early
a
to
little
be
bit
putting him
early.
6 already. But
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Uh, Number 7, Alexander Barkov.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like him in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I know a lot of people love to say he's one of the most underrated guys in the league. I think he somewhat quickly became almost overrated
Yeah, I was just
with
about
just
to say,
how
yeah. And I
good.
would
Like
not
a lot of
even
people
touch
talked
him
about
in
him
the
for a
top.
while,
Yeah, and I wouldn't even touch him in the
like top
top 10
5.
after his playoff performance. Like, no. Like, if we're doing everything up until now, like that playoff performance from him was abysmal as their captain and supposed to be their franchise player. Like, no, I don't like him in the 7 spot. But again, you know, maybe someone sat there and kept clicking him for hours on end.
Yeah. And it's hard to see what, because when I was voting on them, I was basing it off around a 3-year period. What has this player done in the past 3-ish years
Yeah.
for their team? So, some guys that like Jack Hughes who just broke out, I would have a bit lower.
Yeah.
Um, but going after Barkov, number 8, Elias Pettersson.
Okay. I
I
don't
I
like him in
actually
the 8
kind of like
spot
that one.
actually. Yeah,
I
that's a good
don't mind
spot for
that
him,
one.
I think.
He had a huge year this past year.
Yeah. I
Number
feel like I'm
9,
curious
Jack
for 9 and
Eichel.
10. Jack, I could now. Boo.
I
Boo.
think that's a bit high, but I think the
Boo.
recency bias with the playoffs is probably where that comes from.
But then everybody seemed to fucking ignore that with Barkov. So, like, I could easily list 3 guys I would take over Eichel. Like, I don't like him in that spot.
Yeah. And then number 10, Braden Point.
Yeah, I would take Point over Eichel.
Yeah,
That's a good
personally,
spot for Point on the
I think he
top
should.
10.
I think Point should probably be around that 6-7 spot, 6-7-8, somewhere in there. But
Yeah,
I
I
got that
like
homer
him. I
bias, so
like
it's
him.
hard to.
Yeah, I would almost put him at 8 and then move like Pedersen to 9, maybe. That's probably the way that I would do it. Does the list
But
keep going from there on, though?
yeah, he did a different amount for each one. Like I think he did 64, the top 64 for goalies. So he had like the top 2 goalies from each team ranked all the way. He just did the top 50 ranked uh, centerman here.
Okay, so let's go to like 20.
All
So I'm
right,
curious
we
to see how
got
the rest of this falls. Where some of the guys I'm thinking of where they ended up.
yeah. So at 11 we got Tage Thompson.
Okay, so I would put so right now I would have him and Hughes like beside each other. I'd maybe give the nod to Hughes over top, but like still, I feel like they
I
should
think
be
that's
right
fair.
beside each other on this list.
Yeah, I think they should probably be somewhere around 9 and 10 each.
Yeah.
Number 12, Sebastian Aho.
Okay. I would. And so Aho's a guy I'd probably say is like should be right there with Eichel.
Yeah, I think he has a very similar valuation to Eichel.
Yeah.
13, Tim Stutzel.
That's too high for him. Great
Yeah,
player. I think within a couple years he could be up there, but again, it's just he's not. I would not put him in the same category right now with Tage Thompson and Hughes. Like he could easily get up there, but I wouldn't put him with them. But I would still have Hughes and Thompson around 9 and 10 or so. So I think Stutzel should be a little bit lower as of right now.
Yeah,
Plus
you
the
know what?
constant defending doesn't help.
I was I was kind of thinking that, but I'm looking at some of the names below him. I don't know how many of these guys would take over Stutzel though. Number 14, Evgeny Malkin.
I mean, so yeah, so I would take Stutzel over Malkin in terms of right now, just because Stutzel's way younger and not. But like the way that they're playing, like as of right now for 1 year, I'd probably take Malkin.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's literally just like who the question is just phrased who's the better center. Like
Yeah,
it's so some people are going off of, who was better last year. Some people are going off of who's had the better
career
career. Like
or
it's
future
really up to
from whatever.
interpretation.
Yeah, yeah.
15, Anze Kopitar.
All right, I don't hate that one. I don't hate that. He doesn't put up the points like the other guys do, but he plays a great defensive game, so I don't mind. I don't mind him there.
Insane on the face-off dot as well.
Yeah, yeah.
16, Nico Hischier.
Yeah, fuck, I'd have him higher, honestly. He puts
Yeah,
up decent
he's
points and again plays a great two-way game.
Selkie nominated this past
Yeah,
year.
he should be up in like again probably just a bit below Hughes and Thompson. So I'd probably like up in that 11-12 spot.
17, Mika Zibanejad.
And I don't mind that. I'd maybe bump him up a couple, but like I don't mind him in that spot.
Yeah. You know what? When I saw this, I was actually surprised because I thought he was a winger. Because
Oh, did you?
every frickin' time Tampa Bay plays the Rangers, he scores on the power play over on that dot.
Oh yeah,
He scores from over there almost every time we've played against him in the
yeah,
last like 2 or 3 years, to the point where I just thought he was a winger.
yeah. I don't hate him in that spot though. I'm okay
Yeah, I
with
think
that.
that's a decent
That's all
spot.
right.
Decent points, really good finish. He's a
Yeah,
really good goal scorer.
he's Swedish
All right.
actually, but
Okay. Well, if we're splitting hairs.
anyways, anyways,
18, Rupe Hintz.
there he is. I was wondering where Hintz was.
Yeah,
I
he's
would
really
have him
interesting because he
up a
broke out
couple.
huge in the playoffs
Yeah, I'd
this
have him
past
up a
year.
couple because he's a great playoff guy. Way a million times better than Robinson. Um, little bit below Pavelski, but that's not saying much because Pavelski's elite in the playoffs. So to even be up in that conversation of being as good as Pavelski in the playoffs should have him higher in itself.
Number 19, sorry, John Tavares.
Boo! I can't think of anyone off the top of my head I put above him, but boo! He should be lower.
And number 20, we got Dylan Larkin.
No,
You don't think Dylan Larkin's number 20 material?
no, I would not put him 20. I would take Mark Scheifele over Larkin. I'd take Elias Lindholm. Um, so I'm just trying to go through some other guys in my head. I'd definitely take those two for sure.
Lindholm
I
is
mean,
22 and Scheifele is 25. So
okay, so
they're both fairly close.
okay, so who's the 20? Go up to 25, and I'll say if I'd have those guys over Larkin. So
Over
those are probably
Larkin.
some of the guys that aren't coming to my head right away.
All right, 21, Barzell.
Mm, very identical players, so I'm okay with those guys being back to back.
Yeah, so Barzell, 22, like I said, Lindholm, 23, Suzuki.
Yeah, I would take Suzuki over Larkin.
I think I might too. Though
I
those
would
are
take Suzuki.
fairly
Pretty
close.
close, but I would take Suzuki.
24, Bo Horvat.
Mm, I would almost lean towards Horvat just because you know the two-way game you're getting out of him, and he can still put up relatively similar numbers to Larkin, maybe just a little bit less. But that defensive game holds way more value than a 6-8 point difference.
Yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah,
I
that's too
think
high
I
for
think
Larkin, but like
it's
Detroit's a
really
popular
interesting to see
team,
where
so
some of the two-way players landed on the list.
yeah. Yeah, because again, like you could almost like well, I don't could you make the argument between like a guy like Larkin and Eriksson based on last year? I feel like you almost could again if you're taking that two-way game into account.
I think that one's a bit more of a stretch. I
I
think
just I don't know
Larkin's
the
actually
ways.
gotten he's only been getting better. He's I definitely wasn't a huge fan of him before this past year. Uh, I'm still not exactly singing his praises, but he's definitely shown like I did not think he was a number one center, and I don't know if
I'd say he's definitely a number one
he's
center, but
not
he's
that
just
elite center that you think of. You know, your Steven Stamkos, your Crosby, and what have you. But I definitely think he can get the job done.
he definitely can. Yeah, I think 20 is just too high for him. That's probably the one I disagree with the most on that list actually. Maybe Eichel at whatever he was, 8 or 7 or whatever. That one was also pretty high. But
Yeah,
overall,
that's
it's honestly not a terrible list, though. Like that's actually
it's
not.
not too bad.
When you were saying that, like you know, like people could just sit there and keep hitting it over and over. It's like, hey, this list could actually is actually probably gonna be pretty fucked. Like that's honestly not
I
bad.
definitely expected it to be worse than it was. I'm glad to see McDavid so high above, like Draisaitl 92.6, McDavid 97.68.
I'm honestly just
Like,
very happy that those guys were 1 and 2 because there's no other answer than those guys, really.
yeah, it's the only
And
real answer is that sometimes the only argument is that sometimes Draisaitl ends up playing on McDavid's wing. Like
I was gonna
the only
say,
argument you have is if he's not a centerman.
I was gonna say the only argument you can make is like, but it's still even a stretch just based on his regular season play alone and how he can heat up in the playoffs. But sometimes just those cold streaks, like we saw him go through in the playoffs in the later half of the Vegas series, like that's really the only argument you could bring to the table for putting someone above Draisaitl is he can maybe go through those cold streaks in the playoffs, but that can also happen to any player. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't hold that against him very hard
yeah,
yet.
using
If
the
it's a
playoffs as an
constant
example,
thing, then maybe, but
yeah, it's hard for the argument to be his performance in the playoffs when he put up what was it, 13 goals in 12 games.
yeah, exactly right. Like so still even then, like that's impressive in itself. And I think more than anything, I don't think it's a knock on Draisaitl. I think it really is just a matter of the fact of he just got worn out. Like him and
Yeah,
McDavid were just playing absurd numbers in the playoffs. McDavid could kind of maintain it because again, McDavid is McDavid. Like he's got that many
yeah,
votes for a reason and whatnot. But I think Draisaitl literally just got burned out. I think he was just getting used way too much. It was just eventually it just took a toll on him, and he couldn't maintain it. And that's not his fault. On that, the Oilers didn't have enough depth, and a guy like Ryan Nugent Hopkins couldn't step it up at all. Like people are like, oh, he put up 100 points in the regular season. Yeah, but in the playoffs, he was a ghost. He was a bump. So like, and I think that hurt Draisaitl because he had to carry all that extra slack that they weren't getting from other guys.
yeah,
More guys than just Nugent
and
Hopkins. It's just he was first to mind because he was the most evident.
yeah, and you also got to wonder how much pushback was there with other teams compared to Vegas. Like, I mean, the one that obviously comes to mind, Petrangelo went right for the hands on Draisaitl with that one like
Yeah,
fireman chop with his stick. Like he was swinging
and,
a axe like a murderer.
and
Like
that LA
I
series
got to
was
imagine
physical and
seeing that.
grindy.
I got to imagine seeing that it kind of makes you play at least a little bit different, maybe even just subconsciously. They knowing that there's guys that are that crazy to do stuff like that, and I mean, they didn't just do it to any guy. They did it to Draisaitl. They're targeting him and McDavid specifically.
Yeah, they very clearly went out of their way to target him. And yeah, exactly. It definitely could, whether it was something on his mind or not, it could have subconsciously, affected his play and he was just playing a little more conservative and not putting himself in those positions to have those cheap shots on him. It is multiple different things that it could have been.
Yeah, but that's the that was the thread on that.
That was
I
good.
might just go through the other ones. I'll maybe like list 3 or 5 at a time or something, just for time's sake.
Okay.
Here next we got the wingers. This one did have 80,000 votes. This one is just wingers. It's not left or right wing.
Okay.
So they're lumped in together on this one. Uh, I think this one people had more issue with than in general with where some people ended up than the centers.
Okay.
I think most people had most issues with the goalies one, even though I thought that one was probably the most accurate.
Okay.
But we'll get to that in a minute. So number 1, 2, and 3, we have David Pasternak, Matthew Tkachuk, and Nikita Kucherov.
Okay.
And number 4, we have Mikko Rantanen. I'm just going to say those 4 for now, just because Pasternak had 90.2% votes. Tkachuk had 90%. So it was really close between those two for one. And then Kucherov and Rantanen was Kucherov 86.86 and Rantanen at 86.5. So
That
those
should
two
not
were
be
really
that
close for
close.
3 and 4.
Wow. Okay, it's pretty close in between them, yeah.
Yeah. Personally, I mean, you're probably going to hear me all the time say that I'm a homer, but I would take Kucherov there. But it's hard to argue with anyone after what Tkachuk did in the playoffs and the regular season goal scoring
I was
that
gonna say
Pasternak just had. Like,
yeah, if out of those 4 guys, if I had to list them from like 1 to 4, I'd probably, and this is coming from someone who before 5 months ago really disliked Matthew Tkachuk, but I would put Tkachuk 1, Kucherov 2, Pasternak 3, and then I put Rantanen 4. But
yeah,
I mean, you
I
can
know.
very easily make the argument for Kucherov over Tkachuk. Like, maybe it's more so for me just recency bias based on him going just out of his mind in the playoffs. But you could easily make the argument for
He did
Kucherov
also
over
have an
Tkachuk there.
incredible regular season. Like,
That too, yeah.
there's some real talent out there. Yeah, I was surprised. There were some people saying that they would not be surprised if Rantanen was moving up the list if they did this next year. And I was surprised to hear that. Just like Rantanen's really good. He's absolutely elite. But like those 3 guys above him are like franchise altering wingers. And I'm not saying that Rantanen isn't that, but he doesn't scream like the player. This is the player that makes that massive difference. Like, this is the guy that the defensemen have to key onto, or he's scoring.
Yeah, and the way that I view it more than anything is just the fact of like we've seen with on Tampa Bay for times that Kucherov carries a line on his own. Tkachuk in the playoffs very clearly carried a line on his own. But like Pasternak, he's always had Bergeron and Marchand with him. Rantanen has always had, McKinnon and Landeskog, or even back on defense, he has Makar. I just more so look at the guys that can very clearly carry a line on their own and still be those franchise players, compared to the guys who we've never really seen kind of fully just on their own and having to do it. They've always had that elite talent right there with them who end up, helping them out a lot. So, but again, that could very well change now with Boston. With Bergeron, like Pasternak could take the reins and really just carry a whole line on his own. Let Marchand carry another one. But as of right now, I would put Tkachuk and Kucherov ahead.
Yeah, I'm very interested, especially after how many goals did Pasternak have last year? Was it I think it was 61?
60. I think 60.
Like,
yeah, something like that.
Like, it'll be interesting to see how many goals, how many points he puts up this year without Bergeron, you know? Yeah, like I could see it falling to like 40, but he's got a wicked shot and he's got a great hockey IQ. I could see him putting up 55 again. Like it
Yeah.
that'll be interesting to see. God, I can't freaking wait till hockey starts up.
Yeah, there's gonna be so many interesting storylines and stuff to focus on during the season.
All right, we'll start starting at 5, we'll go to 10 here. Jason Robertson, Mitch
Okay.
Marner, Kirill Kaprizov, Brad Marchand, Artemi Panarin, and Steven Stamkos.
Okay. That's honestly not a terrible list.
I definitely
Like,
think
it's not
I
bad.
think the order could change maybe on some of
The
them.
order
I
definitely
don't think
could.
it's any guys that seem out of place in the top 10.
No, like I'm trying to think of guys that I can clearly say like they should be in there, but off the top of my head, I'm like no one's really coming to mind that I could be like, yeah, they're a top 10 winger in the league. Um, yeah, that's probably the group I would have for that. Again, like obviously a couple guys could, be moved around here and there, but overall that's honestly not a terrible list.
Yeah, I think like maybe you could make the argument for moving Johnny Gaudreau in there. It's kind of hard to after this past season just because his numbers dropped because he's obviously playing in Columbus now.
Yeah.
Um, personally, I mean, I'd like to be able to say that Huberdeau belongs in there, but after
Well,
this
I was
past
just, he
season,
was the
it's
guy I was kind
hard
of
to make
coming
that
to. I
argument.
was like, if you made the list a year ago, Huberto has to be in there. But now it's like, can you even make the argument
I'd
for
have
him
it. Yeah,
top
before this past year,
15?
I'd
Like,
have him in my top 5.
yeah, now he's probably
Like,
sniffing around 20 as of right now. So again, lot can change here. Like next year, it could be, is Pasternak really, what was he, number 2? Like, is he really, or number
yeah,
1? Like, he
he's
could
number
be
one.
down around 10 next year. Like, if he only puts up 35 to 40 and, 80 to 85 points, like, you can't make the argument for him being in the top 5, I don't think.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it changes year to year. You know, you can't take a single year off and still be at the top of these because there's so many elite players in the league right now. I was thinking about that when I was looking at the goalie list earlier. That like around like 3 or 4 years ago, there was such a lack of goalie talent in the league. Like you couldn't go out and get a starting goalie because everyone was holding on to them so tight. Like all the guys like the Lundqvists and the Pecorines, they had all just retired, and none of these young guys like Sorokin or Shesterkin had come in yet, and it was like Vasi, Hellebuck, and then I guess there's some other goalies.
Basically, to explain how bad it was at one point Peter Mrazek was viewed as like a top 15 goalie in the league.
Yeah, like
And now he's ranked the worst out of any starting goalie in the league. So like it just shows like how far the goaltending talent has come in the league over the last 5 years.
yeah, there's a lot of good young goalies. But going from starting at 11, we got Alexander Ovechkin,
I like
uh,
I like that. Good for Ovi.
William Nylander,
Yeah, I like that.
Brady Tkachuk,
Yep, I'm okay with that.
Johnny Gaudreau,
Yep.
Mark Stone.
Uh, If he's healthy, yeah.
I was waiting for you to boo on that one.
Oh well, boo. Um, if healthy, yeah. If it's the Mark Stone where you've got him for 40 games and then he's taking one for the team and sitting on IR till playoffs, then not even top 25. But if he's actually healthy and can play, then yeah, I'm okay with that. But boo.
16, Timo Meyer.
Yeah, that's a good
Uh,
spot for him.
17, and I think this is the most commonly one that people were saying underrated in the comments.
Kyle Connor.
17 is Kyle Connor. Yep.
Yeah, there it is. I was wondering because as soon as you said Meyer, I was like, again, it depends on what kind of player you want, but you can make the argument for Connor above Meyer. I think I would take Connor over Stone. Yeah, Kyle Connor's one of those guys where, again, though, he's always really had a good forward group around him. Um, he's great on the power play. But he's one of those guys that I probably should be a little bit higher up. Up
Yeah,
in that Brady Tkachuk area, I would say. Probably maybe even over Tkachuk. But again, it depends on the kind of player you want. Because two very different players.
And then 18, 19, and 20, we have Andrei Svechnikov, Jonathan Huberdeau at 19, which is pretty close to what you said he was be at 20. And at 20, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Okay, yeah. We're in a world where Brian Nugent-Hopkins is now a winger all of a sudden, and he's top 20. No. Yeah. I could literally go out there on the Oilers power play and just have the puck bounce off my ass to McDavid, and he goes end to end. Like, it's not hard. Or even Draisaitl. Or Evan Bouchard, who's the next coming of Bobby Orr. No, there in no way would I put Nugent Hopkins top 20.
Yeah,
I would take JT Miller over Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah, one of the most annoying things that I've seen over this past season is how many Oilers fans are talking about how they always knew that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was a 100-point player, as if he carried his line and drove play for all 100 points.
Yeah. There's just no.
He's a great player. He's not that level.
No, he's not even sniffing that area. Give me
you got
2 seconds.
Players want to know?
Yeah, well, I've just off the top of my head right now, already rattled. I can do him because he's actually on the Oilers, so that also helps. I've got 7 guys that I just came up with off the top of my head that I would take over Nugent Hopkins in a heartbeat without question. And you tell me if you would take them over Nugent Hopkins.
All right.
JT Miller.
Are these all wingers as well?
Yeah.
Is Miller a winger? I think he was on the.
He's kind of back and forth. I kind of have him more as a winger. He takes a lot of faceoffs, but I think he plays more on the wing, or at least did last year.
Okay. I think I'd take Miller if we're going based on just the player skill and not locker room whatevers. Yeah, Miller.
Clayton Keller.
I'd definitely take Clayton Keller, who is 21, right below him.
Okay. Kevin Fiala.
That one's a bit tougher. I think Kevin Fiala, though.
I would take Fiala. Joe Pavelski. I mean, I would take Pavelski still.
Yeah, Pavs.
This one's maybe a little bit close. Philip Forsberg, but I would still take Forsberg.
I think I'd take Nugent Hopkins there.
Over Philip Forsberg?
Maybe I definitely would have said Forsberg 1 or 2 years ago, but what were his numbers this past year? I don't know. I feel like I didn't hear anything about him.
But on a shitty Nashville team riddled with injuries. I'll pull him up right now here.
You're not right.
So last season, Philip Forsberg in 50 games, 19 goals, 23 assists. So not great, but again, on a shitty
team, 50 games played.
And that's not only that.
How many points did you say?
42, which in 50 games is almost equivalent to the amount of even strength points that Nugent Hopkins had, because he had over 50 on the power play alone.
Yeah. For a second, I thought you said 20, so I thought he got 19 goals and 1 assist. I was like, oh, shit. What a legend.
A guy I'm also kind of surprised, maybe, I don't know if people are assuming his injuries super bad or something, but Patrick Kane,
I think
say Patrick Kane was on there. No, you would not take Nugent Hopkins over Patrick Kane.
If we're talking prime, I'm taking Patrick Kane. But
as of right now, I would you put Kane in Nugent Hopkins' spot on the Oilers. Kane clears 100 points or 120 points easily.
in that spot. Replacing him on the Oilers, I'd probably do it. But if I'm building a team, like the way he's playing right now, like he wasn't even leading the Blackhawks when he got traded in points, and he did not play very well for the Rangers once they got to the playoffs.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't focus on the Rangers. Thing is, yeah, the Blackhawks one is kind of bad, but the Rangers, I mean, he was just thrown into a mix of a bunch of guys. He never really got a chance. Um, okay, but so aside from, oh, I can throw him down actually. This one's probably the close one. I would say DeBrincat is kind of close, but you can
that's
make the argument for
that's kind of
DeBrincat over.
close. I think I would take probably DeBrincat.
Yeah, Zach Hyman, who's on the Oilers. I would take Hyman.
I think I'd probably take Nugent Hopkins. I think he's
It's
got more
close, but I
skill.
think I would take Hyman for the all around everything you get from him.
He's definitely
Um,
more all around.
that one's close. And then the last one, like Jake Gensel.
I was hoping you'd say him. Absolutely, Jake Gensel.
Like
I think
Jake
he's so
Gen-
underrated. He's number 22.
Yeah, I would have Nugent Hopkins. Honestly, for me, he'd be back more around the 30, I think.
Yeah,
Like I think you throw him into the position that Clayton Keller is in Arizona, or Philip Forsberg in Nashville. Like he doesn't touch the numbers that those guys have.
yeah,
So that's probably the one I have the biggest issue with out of anything on any of these lists.
yeah.
But I mean,
That's a
it's
bit
the
tough.
Oilers, so like I can see why he maybe ended up on there.
Yeah. Any other specific wingers you want to see their spot on, as long as they're in the top
Um,
50?
there's no other guys that are coming to mind for me. Like off the top of my head that I'm like, ooh, I wonder where they ended up.
Yeah. A couple of ones that I noticed felt like a bit off. Carter Verhaeghe, 34. He should be higher.
Yeah, I'd have him up around 30, right around that 30 spot with Nugent Hopkins.
I'd take Nugent Hopkins.
I think I would too, honestly, like thinking about it. Yeah.
Uh, where was the other one I was looking at? Kevin
Oh,
Fiala's at 33.
Fiala's 33. Another guy would, in a heartbeat, in a million years, easily take over Nugent Hopkins, Sam Reinhart.
Sam Reinhart, number 50.
That's so fucking criminally low. That is so low. I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah, looking at some of the names above him, like Matt Zuccarello is 45. Also, Marty Necas, 48. Did Necas not just like lead? Didn't he lead the Hurricanes in points this year? Unless I'm
He
thinking of
might have.
someone else. Hurricanes point leader. Don't give me all time. Oh, it gave me all time. Okay, well, that's just wrong. Eric Stahl does not have 3,033 points. You're wrong.
I'm just trying to
Wow.
find it here because I
They had
remember
some
seeing it.
they had low scoring year in Carolina. My God. They're such a good team. I thought they'd have more. Necas was their leading scorer with 71 points, then Aho with 67. They only had 3 guys with over 60 points this year.
Really?
Yeah, and the other one's Brent Burns.
Ah, my man.
I guess Svechnikov only played 64 games. He would have made it. But that's there's a lot lower numbers than I expected. Although they have a lot of guys that are above like 30 and 20. It's just scoring by committee.
Yeah, I'm trying to find uh I'm trying to find because there's something about Sam Reinhart that someone did to like really just be like, look how like um
Is it like one of those like advanced models on like their or like production or something?
yeah. Where I can't find it, but yeah, it was like literally showing like just how underrated Sam Reinhart is. But I can't find it here. Damn, I wish I saved it. I should have.
You should have.
I should, because yeah, when I saw it, I was like, damn, like this is really impressive that nobody talks about because Sam Reinhart just doesn't get um that recognition that he deserves. But I would easily take him over Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah. We'll move to the defenseman now. This one is a lot more contentious. Like the number one player got 85.5. That was like
Ooh,
that was
okay.
like number 15 for the centerman. Like that was way down there. So there
Yeah.
was a lot more people disagreeing on this one.
Okay.
So number one, two, and three, respectively, are Cale Makar, Adam Fox, and Victor Hedman.
I'm okay with that top three.
I think that's a good top three. I would not blame anyone who puts, especially Roman Yossi, up there instead of Hedman after this past year. Just because Hedman's numbers were down, he had a bit of injury, and he was also on the second power play. He was getting less minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he has a bounce back year. He wasn't really down, just injured and less minutes, but hopefully he gets those numbers back up. But 4, 5, and 6, Roman Yossi, Miro Heiskanen, and Charlie McAvoy.
Wait, sorry, repeat that. Roman Yossi.
Miro Heiskanen, and Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with that for 4, 5, and 6.
Number 7, Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. After last year, yeah, he's found his way back up in there.
Yeah, I was really curious to see where he'd end up just because people were so down on him and then he put up 100 points and won the Norris. So like you could see him being
Yeah.
number one, but like if people are still rating the contract, I could have seen him being as low as like 20. Like it really depends how people vote with that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, right?
8, 9, and 10, Rasmus Dahlin, Quinn Hughes, and Jacob Slavin.
Okay.
So I think pretty much all 10 of those guys deserve to be in the top 10. Personally, and I know a lot of people are not going to like it, I wouldn't have Jacob Slavin in there.
Really?
I know a lot of people think he's the hidden gem of defense. Um, but I just think when you're talking about at that elite level, the top 10 defensemen in the NHL, I think you have to be able to put up those points and be able to play at least serviceable defense.
I okay, so I can see your argument there
And
for that.
obviously
I
he's
can see that.
incredible defensively. But
Because I mean, it's the same thing with like San Jose, how you know, at a point in time, Vlasic was a top two, top three defensive defenseman in the league. You could easily shut down the other team's, top lines and top players on a nightly basis. But he didn't put up those high point totals, so he was never looked at as, a top 10 or 15 defenseman in the league. So I mean,
yeah,
you can make that argument for Slavin. Like he puts up more points, I'd say, than Vlasic did. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess to
compared to the guys right beside him, uh,
yeah,
it's not quite there.
yeah, okay, I could
Um,
see your argument there.
if I'm trying to think of other, if on top of the first nine, who I'd replace Slavin with, maybe Aaron Ekblad. Oh man, it's too bad he went down with that horrible leg injury like a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
Because he was looking like a freaking Norris front runner that year. He was like
yeah,
slightly above a point per game, I think, and still playing really well defensively. And they just went down, and he's still pretty good, but he's not quite the same. Not at that level that he was heating up to.
yeah. I think right now I would still take Slavin, but I mean, if Ekblad gets back to that form, you could easily make the argument for Ekblad.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like that top 10. The teens here get a bit sketchy pretty quickly. Number 11, Moritz Seider.
Too high.
That's too high.
Way too
He
high.
looks like he's going to be great, but right now, that's too high.
And especially after last year, like way too high.
Yeah. Number 12, Alex Petrangelo.
All right.
I think
That's not that's
that's
not a bad spot for him. But
decent.
boo.
13, Devon Taves.
Too high.
I also think it's too high. Yeah.
Like again, great player and whatnot, but again, really everyone's like, oh, he finally hit his prime. It's like, no, he stopped playing in a defensive structure at the Islanders to a run and gun offensive style, playing with fucking Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon. Like,
Yeah.
you just got put in the best possible position for him. I would not have him in the top 15 at all.
Yeah. I think he probably makes top 20, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a top 20 defenseman
20.
in the league. Not saying he's bad by any means, but, that's some of the guys he's above is more the issue.
Yeah. So
14, Aaron Ekblad.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair for Ekblad as of right now. Definitely could move up by next year.
15, Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, like I would take Hamilton over Taves.
Number 16, Morgan Riley.
Yeah, that's not a bad spot for Riley.
Yeah, it's always
okay.
It's so hard to judge. He's always so hard to judge, as is most guys from Toronto, because he has a good game and you hear about it nonstop, and then he has a bad game or a bad play, and the highlights are everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just so under a microscope.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, having my team play against Toronto in back-to-back years in the playoffs, that dude is a freaking killer in the playoffs.
Yeah, he is.
People talk about their big players not showing up. Dude is scoring like a forward, goal scoring, not just points.
Are there
in the
playoff
playoffs
performers? But
I think he's got 5 goals in the 2 playoff series as a defenseman against us.
Yeah.
God, where was I? 17, Hampus Lindholm.
All right. Yeah, he had a really solid year last year. That's okay.
Yeah, I think I'd still have him a bit lower, just because.
I guess it depends on who
higher on some of these
below
guys.
him. Yeah.
There are guys going all the way down to, at a quick glance, to 28, where I'd probably have him higher than some of these guys we've named already. There's some good names left. 18, Shea Theodore.
All right. Yeah, that's Boo.
19, Chris Letang.
Okay. I maybe have Letang at a 21, 22, probably, at this stage in time now. But not a bad spot.
Number 20, Drew Doughty.
That's actually, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I don't honestly, fuck the way he plays, I'd almost even bump him up a couple.
I was going to say, I feel like people all of a sudden got really down on him, but he's still putting up decent numbers. He's a minute eater. He's still top 10 in the league for minutes played every year.
And he goes and he plays hard. He's not one of those guys who can log, 25 to 30 minutes a game because he plays passive and whatnot. He's gritty. He goes hard. He battles, and he puts up those numbers, awesome. Phenomenal.
Yeah. 21, Mikhail Sergachev.
Yeah, I'd bump him up a couple.
Yeah, I could see him as high as maybe an 18.
Could I think that's even more after next season.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he has the potential to definitely get up there, but yeah, I think that's a decent spot right now. Number 22. Some of the notable this is one of the biggest ones I have issue with. Number 22, Josh Morrissey.
I was just about to say Josh Morrissey. That one's not bad. I mean, he's been serviceable throughout his whole career. He really just took stride last year. I think before I put him in the top 20, I'd like to see him do it at least 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
But based on last year alone, you can make the argument for him in the top 20. But I think looking at it as a whole, I'm fine with him in that spot. But it could, again, like Sergachev, it could easily go up quite a bit by next year.
Um, I'm looking at like from like 25 to 28. I feel like almost all of those guys could move up. Uh, Number 20, what are we at? 23, Jacob Chikrin.
All right. I may put him a bit lower, but
Yeah, I think maybe a bit lower, but that's not terrible.
where the fuck is
20
Vince Dunn?
at 30th.
Oh, thought he was coming up soon.
Number 24, Matthias Ekholm.
Yeah, that's okay. I think he's boosted heavy by going into that Oilers team. I think if he stayed on Nashville, he probably wouldn't even sniff 35.
Yeah, yeah, he'd probably be
But I
35 to
mean,
40 if he
he's on
stayed
the
there.
Oilers, and it helped him hit a different level and really shine. So, like, I guess that is a fair spot for him as of right now, if he can maintain
Yeah.
what he did.
25, Zach Werenski.
Yeah, he's a weird one to judge because he really didn't play at all last year. So,
Yeah,
like, if he played all of last year, he could maybe even be up around the 15 spot. He could
yeah,
have even dropped to
I'd
35
like
because
to
he
put
didn't
him
play last
somewhere up
year.
there. I'm a big fan of Werenski's game, but yeah, he didn't play much last year, so it's hard to justify him too high.
Yeah, exactly.
26, the Beard, Brent Burns.
I was wondering where Burns was. Yeah, so I would. I mean, I'm obsessed with Burns, but I would still even have him a bit higher. Like he was just an animal in the playoffs. Even at his age, he's still doing great. Like he's
Yeah,
probably now at this point in his career, he's probably fallen out of the top 20 realistically. But like 21, 22 is still very reasonable for him.
yeah, and I mean, like I said earlier, I think he had 61 points this year, third on their team in points.
Yeah, like he's still playing just great levels of hockey. So I'd have him up a little bit higher, but it's what it is.
27, Thomas Chabot.
Yeah, I would have him above Chikrin, I think, as
Yeah,
long as
I
he's
think I'd
not
have
fucking
him
slashing his
very
teammates
slightly
in the
higher, like maybe
face.
a
But
24, 25.
yeah,
28, Mackenzie Weegar.
yeah, another guy like Huberdeau could have been way higher up, but just last year in Calgary just really
He had
tanked
a
their
really good
stock.
year in last year.
Yeah, but just not
Like,
he just wasn't what he was the year before with Florida.
I think I'd still bump him up a good bit, but probably not out of the top 20,
Yeah, no,
or
he's
not into the top 20 rather.
he's not top 20. No.
This I found interesting. Right after Uyghur, 29, Noah Hannafin. So they
Oh,
had
okay.
Uyghur and Hannafin back to back.
Over Anderson is interesting. I feel
Yeah,
like Rasmus
Anderson.
Anderson is one of those guys that just he's so underrated now.
Yeah,
Like he doesn't get the spotlight on him as a top defenseman, even though he is the top defenseman on the Flames. And he's right up there to maybe be captain. Like I would. But again, it's a weird list because is like just two guys I'm thinking that should be around that 30 spot at least is Noah Dobson and Adam Pelech.
Adam Pelech, number 40. Noah Dobson, 48.
Yes. And again, like two completely different players. So it's again, which player do you want more? But like overall, like Adam Pelech, I mean, if Slavin's as high as he is, Pelech should be up there. He doesn't put up the amount of points Slavin does, but he's probably the best defensive defenseman in the league. Like if you need a guy in your own end in crunch time, he's probably the guy most GMs would want. So, but again, it's just he doesn't put up those high point totals. So I'm not sure why Slavin is that high and Pelech's that low, but what can you
Yeah.
do?
There's
That list is there's a lot of issues within that list, I would say, out of compared to the other ones.
yeah. Just some other ones that stick out I want to read. So Owen Powers at 33.
Yeah, but like he's literally had like done nothing so far in his first. I mean,
Yeah.
he was serviceable, but nowhere should not be there as of right now.
At 35, John Carlson.
Yeah, that one's
Like
again another weird one.
he's
Dealt with a
not
heart injury, but I that's too low.
he's not very good defensively, but he still puts up like minimum like 70 points a year. Like
Yeah.
he's a very consistent scorer throughout his career. I'd have him higher. Where was it? Evan Bouchard, 42.
Yeah, so I'm surprised no one wasn't jacking his rating up a lot because of his
Yeah.
playoffs. But yeah, I mean that's a fair spot for him right now. Again, if he can do it again next year and have a little bit more of it be even strength and not just all power play points, I think he could easily rocket up into the top 20. Because I
Um,
mean,
did
the
I
offensive numbers
mention
seem to
Rasmus
matter most.
Anderson
So
at 43?
no, you didn't say it was there. So yeah, I would have him higher than Uyghur and Hannafin.
And then Seth Jones at 46.
Wow, he did crack the top 50. Good for him.
I
I gotta say on that.
I get it. His contract is a freaking
Yeah,
anchor,
as a
but
player, he should.
he's still
Yeah.
better than 46. He probably still makes at least the top 25, I think. He
Ooh,
like
that's a bit
his
much.
after this past year, like his a lot of his numbers rebounded. His defensive numbers got a lot better. He
I put
still
him as
put
of
up
right
like
now around
all
30, I
right
think.
points.
Because one
Yeah,
year is one
like
thing, but like again, the Carlson was a 1 year. Can he repeat it type thing or improve? I think around 30's
that's
okay
fair.
for him. I think,
Yeah,
but again, yeah, he definitely could bump up because, like you said, his numbers did improve. But he just needs to capitalize on it rather than again take another couple steps back.
yeah, yeah. Those were most of the ones that jumped out to me on that list.
We've been going for quite a bit of time here. Do you want to do a little bit of a cliffhanger and save the goalie one? Because you said the goalie one was pretty controversial. Do you want to save that for the next one we do here?
Yeah, we can do that.
We'll
I
start
definitely
off
thought
with
the
that
goalie
one,
one
and
was the most reasonable, but people definitely seemed more pissed off about it than the rest of them. So,
that's a perfect cliffhanger to leave it on then.
all right.
Is there anything you want to kind of add here before we hop off here for this one?
I guess Yager, if you're listening, like
Fucking
just
sign.
like yeah, sign for 1 year and just tell them that you're going to play all 82 games. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you to everybody for listening here. Make sure to check back frequently for the next one to drop if you want to hear those goalie rankings. And we will catch you in the next one.